Hey, nature photographers, it's Lee Hoy. I am back and I'm in a really special spot. I'm at Botanica Resort in Crocodile Bay, and I was invited to come here to scout for some workshops. So I'm going to be looking at OM system only, macro workshop. I'm looking at regular Wildside Nature Tour workshops, and I'm looking at a Wildside Nature Photography Summit. I'm on the Osa Peninsula of Costa Rica. I've covered many other areas of Costa Rica. I'm just going to say, I spent my birthday week here. Freaking amazing. And I've had a real treat. I've had humpback whales with calves. I've had birds. I've had all four species of monkey found out here. But I really came out here for macro photography. And I knew I was in for a treat because I was told that I was going to get to meet not just Costa Rica's premier entomologist, but one of the premier entomologists in all of Central America. And so we're going to get to talk to him today. And you guys know how I did the video about the intro to Fieldcraft. Well, I'm going to talk about finding macro subjects. Because for a lot of you, you don't spend time out in the jungle or really much in your backyard looking for macro subjects. So you know what's interesting? Finding insects is very different than finding birds or finding mammals. And so what I want to do is give you some tips, techniques, skills on how to find amazing macro subjects. And we're going to be talking to none other than Jungle Jim. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Howdy from West Texas. I'm Lee Hoy, professional nature photographer, and this is my YouTube channel, Lee Hoy Photography. I'm an OM System Ambassador, photography workshop instructor for Wildside Nature Tours and Precision Camera and Video, and contributing author for the Journal of Wildlife Photography. We're back, and just like I promised, I got Jungle Jim here. I have met this guy, and he's so enthusiastic. He's so passionate about what he does. I've asked him to tell you a little bit about what he's developed here in Costa Rica and his plans and all that he's been doing for insects here in Costa Rica. So Jim, introduce yourself. Tell them about your foundation.
Thank you, Lee, and thank you to everyone. It's a big pleasure. My name is Jim Cordoba. I am the founder and president of Biosphere Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization here in Costa Rica and as well a 50123 in the United States. I protect rainforests. We protect over 500 acres today of tropical rainforests in this critical area in conservation in the world. But also I've been able to create the most complex insect museum where it's holding, a large biodiversity.
It's not very big, is it? It's how many specimens do you think
We
you
have
have?
over 8,000 specimens in collection, and we've been describing new species for science, over 40 new species of insects for science, and there is a lot of work to do here. So I need people taking pictures, that help us to keep documenting the biodiversity that we have in this place. Over 80% of the insects in Costa Rica, they don't have a scientific name. So we have a huge possibility to keep discovering new species for science.
Yeah, it's been pretty exciting to get to meet him. I mean, we've become instant friends, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I really love his heart. You guys know how passionate I am about photography. And to get to spend time with someone, he's a whopping 30 years old, and he has seen you've collected over 750 species of butterflies just in the Osa Peninsula of Costa Rica. That's more species than we have in the entire U.S.
Indeed.
So this guy is very knowledgeable, and I thought, how much better to learn how to find macro photography subjects than hearing from the expert himself. So what's the first tip when it comes to a photographer? They don't know much about macro, or even if they know much, they certainly don't know what you do. What's the number one tip when it comes to finding a macro subject?
Okay, so basically I suggest to, learn so much about plants, but the most important is that you guys can get involved with someone that knows what we have here. So we basically use pheromones. We use a light trap, for example, during the night for attract thousands of insects, different species of moth beetles, praying mantises, and wasps and many other things that feel attracted to the light. And during the night is something that we do, but also during the daytime we've been playing with orchid bees. We're using a special pheromone for attract them, and we can get closer to this spectacular group of insects that we have here.
Yeah.
So there is different ways to find them. For sure, to know about the plants and recognize the host plants of them will help them to recognize where are the insects here.
I think the Scarlet Macaws were offering some advice as well. All right, now let's pretend we're a photographer and we're just going to walk down the trail. As we walk down the trail, and so maybe they don't know the plants and they don't have the pheromones. Let's talk about, as we're looking, how you would go about trying to find a macro subject here, okay? Now, one thing I've noticed when I'm looking for insects on leaves, right? A lot of insects in particular like to go to the very tip, don't they?
Hmm.
You know, and sit out there. And so, you know, it's easy to find certain bugs when they're sitting on top of a leaf. But when it comes to flipping leaves, particularly if you don't know the vegetation, guys, one thing I like to do, you'll notice I'm wearing my fishing gloves, right?
Yeah,
Because the tips of my fingers may not be so sensitive to
it's true.
plants, but I will tend to grab leaves that I can't identify. If they're fuzzy though, I
Don't
tend to be a
touch
little
that.
more cautious, right? But if I'm going to flip, you know, I just might grab leaves, and you can find
Exactly.
insect eggs, right?
Exactly.
So
We can.
what are some things that, like, if you're going to start flipping leaves, what are you going to look
Sometimes we
for?
can find like leaf hoppers, look like we call them brassets, which are fantastic and they are so bizarre. They have really incredible like patterns, And so normally is what you do. So we check it out if they are on one of those interesting species. Also helps to recognize the species of plants, and that is where I help to the people that they can recognize and check it out. What is the right places to find those group of animals? But in general, Costa Rica is full of insects,
Yeah,
and that is fantastic. So throughout all the year, you will find different species, and that makes Costa Rica a perfect place for enjoy throughout the year,
yeah.
and check it out different animals. And also there are different species during dry season, during rainy season. So it's fantastic and perfect because we're never going to get bored here.
No. Now, when you're looking for spiders, you know, a lot of people are going to see the ones that are obviously in the big webs, but
Sure.
most spiders
Hmm.
aren't always in big webs.
No, no,
So
really.
let's say we were going to try to look for some spiders just along this little
Hmm.
patch of forest. What are some key tips that would tell them? Here's how you go about finding spiders
Yeah, well, you need to check it out very well. Some of them they make shelters, so they curl the leaf, and you will see the spider like resting
in the
inside
tip.
on on a curly leaf. That they do it on purpose. They create shelters. So we need to check it out. That kind of things.
So
What
whenever you
we
see a leaf curled real tight, something's probably made a shelter.
correct. Probably there is something resting and sleeping there
Okay,
inside.
okay,
So there
okay.
is different ways. Depends on what you want to find because we have jumping spiders that you find just on top of the
Just moving
vegetation.
around,
They are
don't you?
moving around.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
always talk about looking for abnormal patterns in nature. You know,
Hmm.
things that break up a pattern is one of the things I like to look for. And of course, when I'm looking during the day or looking at night, that's two very different things. All right,
Indeed.
so
Hmm.
you know, so we've talked about caterpillars, we've talked about you know, spiders, ants, and things. You know, what are some other tips like aphids, or you're looking for you know, other types of just
Beetles.
beetles?
You know.
Yeah, like flipping leaves. What kind of things are you
Yeah.
going to be doing when you're walking around?
Well, basically, I just walk around looking for rotting woods. For example, if you are looking for beetles, you can find incredible longhorn beetles. We have a really magnificent species that is called harlequin beetle here.
Oh, wow.
That has massive arms for encage the female.
Ah, okay.
It's incredible. But also we have the giant Megasoma elephas. That is the elephant
The
beetle.
elephant
It's the
beetle. Oh,
second
man.
heaviest beetle of our planet. That is right over here where we are. I mean,
Wow.
so there is so many things to see here,
So
and
flipping
find.
rotting logs is a
Yeah,
good way
exactly.
about doing it.
Sometimes you just move the logs and you will find a whole world under just a piece of log on the ground. It's amazing. I did it in Europe and I got in surprises like there is nothing under a piece of log, but I do that here in Costa
And
Rica and
there's
you
tons of
find
things.
hundreds of things in just one piece of log, and it's like wow, Costa Rica is super special. In
Yes.
biodiversity, that is when you realize that you are in one of the real hot spots of life in our
When you
planet.
flip a log and there's a ton of
Totally.
stuff,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Now, one of the things that we talked about earlier when doing macro photography is don't rush. We were joking earlier about how y'all took 6 hours to go, what'd you say, 200 to 300 meters?
Yeah.
Right? So the reality is, when you're looking for macro subjects, it's really about taking your time,
Hmm.
assessing, you know, moving leaves. And we also, obviously,
Sure.
we want to be careful so we don't hurt insects, but rotting piles of rotting leaves are good to look through for, what do you find? Springtails and and springtail nymphs are often in rotting leaves. Is that
Hmm.
where you find some of those in under rotten logs? Or if you want to look for springtail nymphs, where are you looking?
It's springtails. Oof, really close to the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
They are super, super
Super
tiny.
small, yeah.
Also we have silverfish. Silverfish is a really primitive, animal that has over 400 millions of years evolving on this planet, and we have them here. We have army ants that as well. They travel and they carry a lot of stuff. We have beautiful leafcutter ants.
Mhm.
They're really magnificent as well. To see the ants carrying the pieces of leaves. I mean, there's so many things to show to everyone, and I think it's through macro photography we can bring the awareness that we need for talk about the conservation of insects, which is essential. Insects as
Sure.
well are disappearing in our planet. We estimate in Costa Rica in the last 10 years dropped almost 40% of the biomass of the last 10 years, and that is something that I feel worried, and we should educate other ones through pictures and show the beauty of this group of animals are essential for bring more education and people understand that we really need insects. So for our own conservation too. So it's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Now, what
appreciate
about?
your visit.
Oh, absolutely. So wasps, bees. Like today, we got to photograph the orchid bees and all that. And some of these things are very specialized.
Yep.
When you're looking for a lot of like a lot of the bees that are single, right? They're not in large groups.
Solitaries.
Solitary bees, right?
Hmm.
Well, what are some tips that you'd tell a beginning macro photographer on how to go about finding those?
Normally, for example, orchid bees, they love this kind of logs on the ground. Is normally where they nest.
Ah, okay.
So it is during the mornings, really early in the mornings, is where you can find them around this kind of habitat
Ah,
or
okay.
ecosystem that they love to reproduce. Some of them,
Yeah.
some of them as well, they create like a wax nest,
Ah, okay.
which is a really fascinating structure, completely different as the people know about what normally a bee do. And also we have another group of bees that we call stingless bees. We have over 60 species here in this country. They are fascinating as well, completely different the behavior. And we have a whole project now going on with the stingless bees where people can try the honey, which is medicinal, and they understand that as well, insect can contribute many, many other ways,
Sure.
to the entire humanity. And actually found an incredible caterpillar over here.
Oh, awesome.
So this is basically
Ah,
what I'm trying to recognize. We were talking
yes,
just a few
yes.
minutes ago. I realized that there is a caterpillar here. This is what we call frask chain. So this is not the vein of the leaf. This is basically silk and poop, and create a chain. And the caterpillar
It's
is
just
it
sitting
just
right there
placed
on the
there.
tip.
And actually, it's fascinating. The caterpillar will glue some pieces of leaf, which is makes a perfect camouflage for the basically the caterpillar can disappear.
Now we got to photograph it, right?
Now you can take a picture.
That is great spotting, man. Yeah, I'll take a picture of this and we can share it with the audience.
So that is the point that how we read the plants, how we read the areas where they love to be, is how we find the stuff and how we can recognize where are the animals. But
Very
yeah,
cool.
Costa
Very
Rica
cool.
it's a really buggy country, and it's fantastic and it's fascinating. The sizes of them are some of them are huge, some of them are tiny, some of them they have really bizarre colors and patterns, and so it's always you will find something different. Sometimes I need to just release animals that I know that are new for science. Bugs that are new for
Yeah,
science. Is like I don't have more time for. I can keep
for
describing you.
identifying.
Go away.
Now, what about lifting up bark off trees or anything? Is there certain bugs that you're going to know, like
Oh
if I
yeah,
want to find this?
yeah, for sure. Especially this kind of woods stuff on the forest. Yes, you can see something got here
Mm-hmm.
inside. Probably has been a longhorn beetle that got this, make this hole here. But when you break this and you start analyzing the bark and everything, for sure you will find a lot of stuff.
A lot of subjects.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, last chance. What's another tip that you would say, to try to help people finding subjects when they're walking a trail, whether it be in America, Costa Rica, wherever? What are some of the, when you guys are heading down, what is it you're looking for?
What?
Well, like just what's one more tip on trying to find any subject that you would say, hey guys, if you're really trying to find some cool stuff to photograph, make sure you do this.
Oof, there is many things that you can do. For example, we study as well butterflies, and we use like a kind of baits for attract them. We have in the rainforest a stratification of the species, so there are some species that we can attract from the forest canopy using a special baits as well, and that make an incredible like dynamic activity for wildlife photographers. They can come and photograph different species. We have incredible fruit beetles as well. We have fungus beetles that sometimes around the logs as well you can find. So
Does that,
there's
is that mixture where you just take the bananas and like some beer
it's
and let it sit and ferment? What else do you
I
add
do
in
a,
there?
a fermented thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
like a
yeah. It'll bring a lot of stuff in, won't
like
it?
a liquor for
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like
for
liquor for
for
butterflies. That's right.
they get drunk, and you realize that when they start
Yeah,
flying, it's
that's
like,
right. That's right.
yeah, exactly. It's the way how I can find different things like that, and I've been creating the museum, so people can basically get an app that is called Animals of Costa Rica. I'm part of the co-authors of this app in our country that has over 7,000 species on this app. So the people will get information, the name in different languages, the scientific name as well, and it's super easy to use. So this is something that we want to do is put the information on the hands of the people in an easier way for people to feel more curious, interested about the fascinating world, insect world that we have here.
All right, man. I appreciate it, Jim. Hey, guys, listen. I am putting together an awesome itinerary that's going to be macro specific, OM system specific, where we are going to spend several days with Jungle Jim getting us great macro subjects, going out visiting their reserve, which is a very special. He actually has two places at different elevations. So watch for that. I'll be putting that itinerary together soon. That'll be up on the Wildside Nature Tours website. I'm still accepting applications or people registering for my OM System Mentorship Program. Come join me in the field. I'm having an incredible week here in the Osa Peninsula of Costa Rica. Thanks for joining me, Jim.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Guys, if you can, help out BioServe Foundation. We want to make sure we're doing all we can to conserve this beautiful land.
Indeed, we are in one of the most biologically intense places on Earth. We estimate that almost 3% of the world's biodiversity is right over here.
Right here.
It's amazing.
Great spot. All right, guys, go out and get some great images. We'll talk to you later.